Well, hello and good evening. Welcome again to another week of the Leadership 911 chat series when courage and crisis collide. I'm Charles Jackson, founder of the Relational Leadership Network. I'm so glad that everyone has come back week after week for this transformational summit. I hope you all find yourself in good health and high spirits as we continue to try and really navigate some unprecedented times. And although it's brought about a lot of challenges, I keep saying it week after week, it's also brought about a lot of opportunities for leaders and businesses. And we just need to adjust to the new norms. And so we started this series so that leaders, business owners, and entrepreneurs, and solopreneurs could develop a crisis plan on how to manage their teams while we go through the COVID-19 pandemic. Learn how to keep everyone calm, respond really with innovative solutions, find hope in the midst of tragedy, and get insight on how we can make the necessary adjustments. This pandemic has taught us a lot, but one thing is sure, we can go from a normal day to an unrecognizable day just like that. So the question remains, how do we make the right moves in the midst of such uncertainty? And to help us figure that out, I brought and called on my man, my friend, Charles Clark. He is a motivational champion, just an expert really in habit improvement and how to pivot with purpose. After being sixth fastest man in the world, every time I say that, I'm like, man, I know somebody who's the sixth fastest man in the world. After being the sixth fastest man in the world, Charles, he suffered a life-altering injury. This caused him to shift his perspective and really his platform. And now he teaches audiences everywhere how to rise up after hitting rock bottom. And I'm not trying to tell this story, he's going to share it with us. But if you're looking to reinvent yourself or your company because of what COVID-19 has done to your business, then I want to introduce you to my friend, Charles Clark. Charles, welcome to the broadcast, sir.
Hey now, what's up, bro?
Man, yes, that's right. Charles and Charles in the house.
Right.
I really appreciate you
Hey, thanks for
joining me,
having me on the
man.
show.
Yeah, I've been excited
Uh,
and really been looking forward to it. So,
yeah,
we're going to have a discussion about how to really pivot like a world-class athlete. So if you're in the chat, we like these summits, episodes and sessions to be very interactive. So you can send in your questions, smash the like button, throw Charles some hearts, some comments if you're agreeing. If he's helping you out, talk to him. I'm going to monitor the chat so that way he knows what's going on and he can fully engage with you guys by responding to some of the live questions or comments that may come up. But I'm really just going to guide a discussion and he's going to help us in this moment learn how to pivot. So I already see folks jumping on and making comments. They are ready to go, Charles. So if you're ready to go, I'm ready to go ahead and dive into our
yeah,
discussion. All right,
born
perfect.
ready.
So I want to start in this way before we even go any further. I want you to first off tell us what you do now, and then we're going to sort of flash back to where that part of the journey sort of began, if that makes sense. So kind of give us a snapshot of what you do now, but then we're going to go and make
Yeah,
that kind of flashback to how it all began.
right. So in a nutshell, I show entrepreneurs and doers how to thrive. Those who are surviving and they want to take their life to a whole nother level in their business and in their personal lives so that they can live a life of purpose.
Okay, okay. And so in doing that, you're give us a little bit. You're talking to Fortune 500 companies. You're putting
Yes,
on
so
workshops, shops, and seminars. How does that look?
Yeah, so on the corporate side of things, companies bring me in like Raymond James, Dick's Sporting Goods, Nike, even Frontier Communications. So I work with Fortune 500 companies and really help them with their mindset and their leadership. But
Okay.
also, what I love to do is the other part of my business is really on the personal side of helping entrepreneurs and doers find a way to get out of the struggle and truly thrive in what it is that they're looking to accomplish in their life.
Okay.
So I put on Thrive events all around the world. I travel around the world speaking, and I'm just so excited to be at this place that I am at now.
Yeah.
And I guess I'll share the story of what that journey looked like before all of that.
Okay. So that's what you're engaged in now, and you feel like you're fulfilling your purpose, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So now let's backtrack, because before before this came about, right? This was Charles. Let me see. That was
Yeah.
Charles right there. And if you're following it along, you'll see is a picture of you, I think, running in Berlin, I think it was. Um,
Okay.
and so that's what we're looking at right now. And so that was you, and you're
Right.
pursuing an athletic career in track and field, right? And you even had the
Right.
opportunity, to be in a race. I think the one where Usain Bolt broke a record, right? Is that correct?
Yeah. Usain Bolt broke the world record
Yeah.
in
So
the 200-meter dash.
you're pursuing that, and you have that.
Yeah.
That's your passion, right? You're all into that.
Hmm.
What
Right.
happened, Charles? Because that's not what you're doing right now, man.
Yeah. So, man, it was I think it was my senior year in college. I was the sixth fastest man in the world. So coming in my senior year, and you talk about a guy having this vision since he was younger. Since my mom gave me my first pair of waffle Nike Spikes in the sixth grade. So I dreamed of this moment, to make it to that level, to make my family proud.
100 companies you
And
put no work,
so
Charles.
my senior year, I think I'm getting a little feedback. So my senior year, um, I suffered a debilitating injury,
Okay.
and it was one day I was doing 120-meter sprints, heard a pop in my right quad muscle,
Wow.
and all of that, it came with more than just that pain and the realization that this hurts, right? I think for me it was like, yo, your life is about to completely change.
Right.
Like coming back from this injury, it's going to be difficult. And I remember the doctor, he told me, he was like, Charles, there's a chance that you'll never be able to bounce back from this. You'll never be able to run as fast as you did.
Wow.
And with that mindset of I can, who's going to tell me that I can't bounce back from this, right?
Okay.
And so, the journey of that was I ended up moving back at home with my mom, and I was broken. I was defeated. I was at an all-time low. I
Mm.
felt like I had my life figured out. I was supposed to arrive to this moment when, I'm 23 and
Mm-hmm.
I'm nowhere near it now. And my mom, I remember this day, I was sitting at the bottom of their steps, and I was so broken, I was so defeated that she never seen me this way.
Wow.
And she had asked me, she said, Charles, what do you need me to do to fix this?
Mm.
Because I think like, a mom, her job and her responsibility is to nurture and take care of their son or their daughter. And when she asked me that, I realized, man, I'm a grown man at this point. I'm just living at home with my mom. And so like, she could not be responsible for my life.
Okay.
And I think a lot of times people get it confused that they try to put the burden on somebody else. But that's your bed. You got to lay in it.
Mm.
You got to figure this out. How you going to make it?
Right.
And I said, Mom, it's on me. I'm the one. And so it took so many, it was a year to get over that hump. I would stare at walls and just think and think and think, right? Because my life's supposed to be this way. I'm supposed to be on the Wheaties box at this point in my
Mm.
life.
Gotcha.
And so the change happened when I was asked to speak at a high school.
Okay.
And I'll never forget this day because this teenager, she came up to me, and I love to take photos with kids and stuff like that. And she came up to me and she was like, yo, listen, I don't want to take any photos with you. I just need to let you know what you said on that stage. It changed my life. And you didn't know this, but I felt like killing myself today. But you made me want to live my dream.
Mm.
And I'm thinking, like, how can she see this in me, a guy who's so broken on the inside? How can she see something that makes her want to live?
Makes someone to live.
I'm doing something wrong here. So many times we try to chase the gold medal. We
Right.
want to be successful. We want to make all this money. Sure, that's nice, but what are you doing it for?
Wow.
And when I realized that I don't need track to prove myself, that I'm more than an athlete, right? Then the perspective began to shift. Things began to change for my life.
Okay.
And so this was what brings me to where I am now, because I realized that I can still win by putting other people first.
Wow.
And as leaders, that's the biggest thing that we need to focus on.
Yeah, that's really good, man. And to think that, like you say, you went from a place of something that you were pursuing for quite a while, man. You put in hours, you put in days, you put blood, sweat, and tears into that thing, from that first
Right.
pair of, spikes you got at 6. And all of a sudden, when you're right really on the cusp of really breaking into that arena, you have this traumatic injury. You have a trauma. And so, like you,
Right.
man, a lot of businesses and a lot of individuals right now, COVID-19 has brought about a life altering, traumatic experience for them. And they're having to
Mm-hmm.
reinvent themselves in a way.
Yeah.
But if I heard what you said,
Yeah.
which we're going to come back to, you didn't have to completely reinvent yourself, because who you are at the core is still there, right? The platform
Right.
may have shifted, but we're gonna get to that in a second. But you said that, and it made me think about how at the core you're still the same, Charles. It's just the platform that
Right.
you're using now looks different. And so, what
Right.
are some similarities and between, say, this COVID-19 crisis and other life altering traumatic events that people may experience?
The similarity that is going to happen with the crises is, and whether it's your personal crises, or this crisis that we're in right now, I think is understanding that change is necessary. And kind of like related to a caterpillar.
Mm-hmm.
A caterpillar is going to go through that painful, life altering transformation by killing off his old self to become a butterfly.
Okay.
Right? That's an ugly change. That's a period that nobody want to deal with. Let me just get to the moment of me making it on the other side.
Okay.
So I think, when we talk about like crises, understanding like, yo, change is good at the end of the day,
Okay.
because now we're operating at a new capacity,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Because what I thought was the best thing for my life ended up being short-lived, and it expanded my whole territory of what I can do and provide for my family,
Mm.
right? Because track and field is short-lived. You get about 12, pro years at most, but then you shift. And I think a lot of people don't know how to make that shift, make that change. So you're always going to deal with a level of
Of
crises and
crisis.
change, especially when you are pushing the envelope, when you are rising to the occasion, when you're going to the next level, you're going to experience change, but it's all about your mindset and how you choose to handle it.
Okay. I like that. So then, now, you've had this injury. You started speaking, and I'm assuming, because one of the questions came in, had you spoken before? And we're getting ready to sort of get into sort of your blueprint. But I'll ask that question
Yeah.
right now. Had you spoken at events before? Was it something that you did a lot of? Because now you have to sort of choose a new path to go down, right? So how did that come about? Like, how did your
Yeah.
perspective play into you making that decision as far as what do I do now?
Right. My story, man, is so deep. And before college, I actually sat out a semester because I didn't have the SAT scores that I needed, or ACT scores that I needed. And so me sitting out that semester, I had to take this test over and over again, end up getting tested by 1 point, and going to Florida State University
Okay.
in January. And I had made a vow to myself. I said, I don't want kids to go through what I went through, of not knowing, like, this is what you need in order to get into college. Don't rely so much on your athletic success. You need to be well rounded. And
Okay.
so I said, when I graduate, I'm going to create a nonprofit, and I'm going to do that in honor of these kids that need to know how they can thrive academically and athletically.
Okay.
End up doing that. So that what took me on the journey of kind of mentoring in college. So I was kind of inserting myself into ways of being a mentor, never speaking though.
Okay.
It was always on a personal note and me just being real, keeping it 100. And then it ended up me having an opportunity to speak in front of a small classroom of about 24 kids.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, this is pretty dope. And then somebody asked me, all right, I need you to speak in front of the entire school. And that was that moment. That was that moment I was like, you know, this nonprofit that I have, I can make profit doing this now. So I end up, making changes there. And, this is what brought me here.
Wow, man. What was your perspective through all of this? Because you talk a lot about, when I attend your events and we engage in other platforms that you have, you talk a lot about perspective, man. How did your perspective play into that whole move and that shift? Now that you had the injury, you sort of been working this nonprofit. Like, what were you
Yeah.
thinking?
You know, you will never be able to change your situation if you don't have the right perspective. And the perspective you operate in is literally survival consciousness. That's you giving in to temptation, getting the lesser than reward, right? Um, Truly, where you're just living day by day, going through the routine,
Hmm.
mundane, right? You're not pushing. You're not trying to get to the level of success that you aspire to reach. But
And you
then you
call
have
that survival mode. Is
thrive
that what you said? Surviving.
survival consciousness. So
Survival
survival
conscious. Okay.
consciousness. So just think about that like it's really scarcity, right?
Hmm.
And when you talk about like scarcity and that survival mode, you think about fear of failure, you think about comparison, you think about the lack of courage, you think about ignorance, you think about limiting beliefs. All these things are placed there, and so you can't change in that atmosphere. One of the things I know for sure is like if you're not changing, elevating, growing, you're dying, right?
Hmm.
And so when you're in this scarcity mode, you're dying, right? But in that abundance mode, and this is like that thrive consciousness where you are persistent at achieving your goals and you're resistant to that temptation. That's when you start to see new things, new opportunities, and that change that we're looking for. And so like in that space is like I can handle this, right? It's I know I'm not alone in this situation, right? It's I am enough. And I
Yeah.
think it's hard to get to that place at first, especially when you're in the rock bottom and you like, I don't even know what the heck going on right now. But all I know is I don't like this, right?
Yeah.
There's choices we make in that situation. So you have to operate in that mindset of thrive. That's why I'm so big on it. When I arrived to that place, when I think about my mom and she had asked me, what do I need to do to fix this? And I told her I was the one. I landed on this idea that I need to be successful. And in order to be successful, you got to know what success means to you. And the only word I could think about was thrive.
Mm.
And when I think about the word thrive, it means in your failures and even in your success, you are pushing to the next level. And so this is where this whole thrive movement comes from, that I can still thrive in my failure,
Right.
right?
Right.
You can still thrive in your failure. Like it's just your perspective that you choose to have.
Hmm.
So I think for a lot of people, you can't allow yourself to get robbed by the fact that you're not where you want to be, but understanding that if you just carry the right mindset, you can get through this.
Wow. It's really good, man, because I think by default we probably live in that space of survival conscious versus thriving, and oftentimes,
The reason why, I'll tell you the reason why. Like, it's in our DNA to do that, right? Like
yeah,
way back when, ancestors, like when there were saber-tooth tigers and all those things, the only thing that they were worried about was fight or flight. Like, let
right,
me take care of my family, let me eat, and let me
hmm,
not get eaten, right? So that's the
yeah,
only thing that we were thinking about. But the modern day version of this is now the place of distraction or desire.
Yeah.
And so we have a choice to make. And so it's literally the difference between like that survival or thrive mode. So you can
Yeah.
choose distraction and that's survival because you're not dying. Like I'm still
Right.
living, but I don't have to, do anything amazing because, I can just go to the grocery store now and get my food, or I can just work wherever I want to work and just make the bare minimum of what I need to do. But thriving, that's your desire, what you truly want, and that God put you on this earth to do.
Hmm.
That's that's going for that, even though
Yeah.
it might look difficult.
And so now we're talking to individuals who um, are forced with a decision. They have to change the way they deliver products. They have to might even change their products. They have to change their platforms. But then there's individuals who have to change their actual pursuits in some kind of way. And
Right.
I got this quote that I put on our page, that the point where your abilities cross paths with another human need, therein lies your purpose. And I share that because now, considering what you just shared with us, that even in failure, even in even having to make a change or pivot, you can still be thriving while
Yeah.
doing so. So now an
Right.
individual is at this point now where they're trying to figure out, I can't do what I was doing before because maybe I'm an event planner and there's not a lot of event planning unless I'm going to do it virtually. Or maybe I was, doing trade shows, or I don't know, whatever. And
Yeah.
they're having to, or they think they might have to give up their passions to do something different. And so why is it
Right.
important to understand your purpose in the midst of the crisis? Because again, we're trying to follow those and pursue those passions, which I hear you talk about so much. In the midst of a crisis, why is it so important now to understand my purpose if I'm going to make a pivot?
Mm-hmm. See, the thing, about purpose is it means that it does. Here's what it doesn't mean. It doesn't mean nothing bad is going to happen to you. It doesn't mean that you have arrived to this idea or thought and now you can clearly get to that
Mm,
destination without a problem. That's
yeah,
not what it means. I think, like, so many people get confused about purpose, like, oh, I'm untouchable now, right? But it doesn't
right.
mean that. Like, the Latin word for purpose is propositum, and it what propositum means is simply design, right?
Okay,
Design.
design.
And when I think about, right, design, like, when I think about design, right, think about I think about grandma's sweet potato pie. Right? My
Uh
grandma,
oh.
she cooks a mean sweet potato pie, bro. And one of the things that I admire about the process that she has when she makes a sweet potato pie is that she doesn't use a measuring cup. She's just whipping it up. She's stirring things up. And I remember the first time I saw my grandma do this magic trick. Like, I'm like, what are you doing, grandma? Because, like, my mom, she can't cook, and she that laughed at me and she was like, I'm making a pie. Now be quiet and pass me some sugar. So I'm passing her the sugar, and she looks at me, she tastes it, and she says something's missing. She goes over to the cabinet and she grabs the salt. Like, I'm thinking, salt. This is a sweet
Salt.
potato
You
pie.
making a
You
sweet
got all
potato
these sweet
pie?
ingredients. Why you right? Why you trying to add the salt to this? And she added just a little pinch of salt into it. She blended it up, tasted it. She said it was perfect. It was perfect. And immediately I thought, like, thinking about it now, that was a powerful lesson. And when we think about purpose, right, it simply means that it's design, that you can
Design.
you can turn a mess into something beautiful. That
Hmm.
you don't need to know every little thing that you need to know about making it to the moment of desire. But all you have to do is design. All you have to do is create and do whatever is possible that you can do. And sometimes magic happens in between that process, just like it
Right.
was for my grandma, right? And so I need people to understand that purpose is your design. And if tragedy can come, if beauty can come out of tragedy, that's design. Like,
Mm.
a bee has purpose, right? A bee has a design. A goat can climb up mountains. That he has a design. And when we talk about a human design, that thing is infinite. We
Right.
have so many ways that we can create and we can live and we can be true to who we are. But I
Right.
think sometimes we just think that we're just good for one thing.
For one
And
thing.
after that, I'm good for, and after that, like I'm good for nothing. But if you understand the principles of purpose, you understand that you can turn a bad thing into a good thing. And so I'd like,
Yeah.
just a reminder for people, like, here's 7 things that I believe that in will allow you to see that you have purpose. And for one is that the same existence that is put into the earth's crust is the same existence that is found in you. Purpose, right?
Purpose.
Like
Okay.
that's intention. That's design. So make no
Right.
mistake and understand, like, you weren't a mistake. It was all intention put in all of this world that we live in. The other thing is your heart beat like no one else. That's a design, right? Right. So I just want to give people hope in this. Like, and a third thing is you are made to fit no one's image but the one God gave you, right? That's design. So when you talk about the idea that you see other people making it and they arrive to their moment, you got to understand that that ain't your story.
Mm-hmm.
So stop trying to fit that story into what God is trying to do for you. Because when you do that, you will ruin the whole piece, because design, like design is your creation, it's your
Yeah.
it's your doing, it's not being a copycat. The other thing is, like, you have a legacy living in you and flowing through others. That's design. So even before we die, we already have a legacy, and we just got to do our part to get there, right? The other thing
Mm-hmm.
is, like, you have a birthright, meaning, before you were even created, there was a plan for you. There was a plan for you. That's purpose. That's intention. That's design, man. And
Right.
so when
Right.
I'm thinking about all these things, and number 7 is, um, your biggest pain can positively impact others. So
Mm.
yeah, I understand
Yeah, that's good.
that we going through some things right now. I understand that some people have lost their jobs.
Right.
I understand that this is something that we never experienced before. But let me tell you, innovation comes out of all of this, right? Beauty can come out of all of this. Togetherness can come out of all of this. But you have to decide that that big pain that you are carrying, whatever it is, even if it's not just the coronavirus, right? But you got real pain. Stop trying to hold that.
Mm-hmm.
Stop trying to withhold that from the ingredient that's going to make you you. Like, just like my grandma, she had to add the salt to make everything come together. And when you try to compartmentalize your pain, it's never going to be a masterpiece.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's beautiful, man. That's almost like a sermon on the mount right there, bro. You just brought it. Because so many times, and like you said, that salt that is by nature a little bitter, but it actually brings flavor. But compared to some brown
So good.
sugar or some cinnamon and some even sweet potatoes
Right.
that are naturally sweet, you're like, I don't want that. But
Right.
it's a part of the process. And what I've learned, especially in my own endeavors, and as I coach individuals myself in the realm of leadership, and even in the couples mentoring that my wife and I do on our platform, that the pain and the trauma was all a part of the process of us getting the bigger picture of our potential, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't even understand our
Yeah.
true potential until we've gone through the process of really learning how resilient we are, what other skills and talents we can tap into. And so we have this
Right.
misconception, Charles, and let me know if you agree with me, that our purpose is static, meaning it's that one thing that once I hit it, I'm done. Well, what if I do that when I'm like
Yeah.
6 or 10 or 15? Then I'm like, what do I do now
Yeah.
for the rest of my life? I've already,
Right.
hit the mountaintop. But what you're saying is
Yeah.
one of those things that our purpose, especially as we go through traumatic events and we go through difficulties
Right.
and we keep the right perspective, our purpose is
Right.
even more defined. And like I said in the early when I shared that quote, at the point where your abilities and your skills and talents cross path with
Yeah.
another human need, therein lies your purpose. And that can be one
Exactly.
way in year 10 and another way in year 20 and another way at year 30, right? Man,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
that's powerful, brother.
That's
I
good.
like that. All right,
That's
guys,
good.
talk to us. Is Charles
Yeah. I
helping
think
us out? I see I see one question that someone asked. I'll throw this at you real quick. So now in the
okay.
news, we're hearing this from Dr. Parker that a lot of colleges and stuff, the people are getting ready to graduate college, and in the news, some of
Yeah.
the industries and fields that they were looking to go into, they're hearing that it's dead, and they need to make that shift. So Dr. Parker is asking, what would you recommend someone do as they look for that next opportunity? Say they're coming out of college and what they thought they were getting ready to do might not necessarily be a good idea. Is there a quick nugget you want to drop right there?
You know what they're experiencing, it might, we all have experienced. It's just in a different way. Because most people, they're not using their degrees anyway, right? They're not using their degrees anyway. And, you really need a degree if you're going to be a doctor, a lawyer, a nurse, those things. And then there's some other exceptions to the rule as well. But chances are some of these students, they didn't want to do what they were doing in the first place. They were probably doing it just to satisfy their parent, trying to do a trend because it sounded good, it was going to make me money. But now you got the perfect opportunity to pursue what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just got a whole nother door open in your life that you can make a decision today. You can continue to do what you didn't want to do, or
Right.
you can go in on what you want, what you know, what you desire, what God called you for, and He called
Right.
you to do this. Now it's time for you to show up in that. Test the water, get your ankles wet, get your kneecaps wet. Like it's the perfect time
Yeah.
to try you now. You've been living in other people's identity all your life, and now it's time for you to see what you can do.
Mm.
That's what I would say to that person. So understand, we all going through this, just a different way. I'm not using my degree, and I'm making money. So you can do what you desire to do. Just keep yourself integrity. Do what you feel you called to do in this world. Stop worrying about the rest. Stop worrying
Yeah.
about the critics, because the critics ain't gonna buy what you have to offer anyway.
Wow. Yeah. We I'm not using my original degree. I definitely have. I personally have made several pivots, my friend, on this path, and each time I look back and I'm like, man, what was I holding on to? Or I wish I would have done that, sooner. And so, but
Right.
again, you don't see that when you're in it. But I've had to make several pivots myself, so that resonates with me as well.
Yeah.
On the Matrix, I'm gonna pull out old Matrix quote. Morpheus said, "There's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path. There's a difference between knowing the path
Hmm.
and walking the path." So, how can we pivot from tragedy to triumph? How do we find that path? Or if we found it, what is it that do we just start doing something? Is it tied to an old talent? Like, what do we do now? How do we make this pivot and go from tragedy, what seems to be a tragedy, and turn that into triumph?
It's just what you just said. Test to try. Sow a seed. See if it grow. If nothing happens, be a little patient. And if nothing happens, try something else. I
Yeah.
think it's that simple. I think we overcomplicate things, and we want this philosophical answer, but is really just do it, and the road will come. Right? You are walking a path that no one has walked before, and so you are on your go. You are creating your roadmap. Sometimes you turn left, sometimes you turn right, right? Sometimes it's straight, but you just go and you just do.
Yeah.
and stop
But I'm
trying
but
to
but I'm
find
trying to
all
find
the
a whole new
answers.
career, Charles. Like I gotta find a whole new career. You saying just try. I gotta do something.
I'm I'm saying do something.
Do
Get
something.
interested, right?
Yeah.
The power of interest is so contagious to your life.
I like that.
Like I remember it's I was working at Dick's Sporting Goods, a job that I end up quitting before I went full time in my business. I was tired of standing up on my feet. And so I remember this dude, he came up to me and he was like, yo, Charles, I'm trying to, I'm about to graduate from college, and I want to know, like, what do you think? Like, how can I get into this cyber security? And the only thing I said to him, I said, just get interested. Just get interested. He said, yeah.
Hmm.
Like, what do you mean? I said, start talking about it. I can't make this up, bro. A CEO from a cyber security company was listening to our conversation, and he told him, I can offer you a job. Send me your resume. All I'm saying,
Wow.
y'all,
Wow.
is if you just find enough interest in something, stuff start to fall in place.
Wow.
But if you just say this is what you want and you have no action towards it, you're going to be at that same place of wanting
Mm-hmm.
and never reaching that desire where you are just so in love with just trying to, when you're in love with something, when you know this is what you want, just like dating somebody. You meet a fine girl, right? My fine wife. I met her. I was I was like so interested. I would message her on my Instagram, popping her DM, text her. I would call her. I was interested. So you got to ask yourself, like, are you truly interested, or is it just something that you want?
Yeah.
Is are you interested in your life changing, or is it just an idea?
Yeah. So get
There
involved
you can
in
find the
that
answer.
area. Get involved.
Right.
Start showing interest, reading, going, listening to those podcasts, going to those conferences, those events that are tied to what you think you want to do now at this point. Have those
Yeah.
conversations because what you're doing, you're learning, you're gaining exposure, but you're sort of networking. But at the same time, you are conditioning yourself for that
Right.
environment, right? And you'll begin to get
Right.
ideas about how now you can take what somebody else may be doing already in that space, and then take their blueprint or learn their blueprint and use that to make your pivot.
Right.
Especially, like I say, COVID-19 has really caused a lot of people to say, "Oh, I got to do something different, even if it's temporarily." We got to make some changes,
Right.
and so Dr. Larry said, "Yeah, the first rule is you got to show up," and that's what you was just saying to us, Charles. You got to show up. So you told us
Yeah.
that we got to have the right perspective. We got to sort of position ourselves, properly in our mindset and how we see, what has just taken place, and and
Hmm.
and think about even our passions and what interests us, and then get interested in something. You got to show up, and then so
Yeah.
now, how do you bring that all together? Is there a formula? Like, what do you teach your Thrive folks? I know there's a lot that you teach, right? But what do
Yeah.
you what do you sort of walk them through? Okay, do this, do this, do this, and then to at least get started on this path, so that you can start
Yeah.
making some progression, right?
All right. Yeah. So if you're listening right now, grab a pen. This is what I would say do. Now these are proven techniques that I use and I do in my coaching, and that literally drastically changes that person's mindset, which is the biggest thing, right? I believe that our emotions drive our decisions, and those decisions they create habits for ourselves, and those habits they create our lifestyle. So one of the first things I would say is develop a routine. And one of the routines that I would encourage you to do is what I call will statements. Now,
Okay.
the will statements is going to put the will statements are positive affirmations that you say to yourself in the form of I will, right? And the best time to do that is the morning and at night. So this is where your brain is at the optimal level to be primed on a subconscious level, right?
Okay.
So meaning what this means is the subconscious mind, it's 300 times stronger than the conscious mind. The conscious mind can only operate at about 100 thoughts, right? It can only let in about that many thoughts, but the conscious mind can take in
Okay.
so much. The conscious mind, it represents those habits, and habits represent about 45% of our day,
Wow.
right? So those are things that come in automatically, right? So by default, 45% of our life is controlled by habits. So we got to be so intentional with
We got to be
understanding, all
intentional.
right,
Yeah.
right? What type of habits do I have? And what I'm referring to is now your words. What words are you saying to yourself? What's getting the loudest vibration in your day, right? Is it anger? Is it curse words? Is it saying that you're not good enough? Because that's what you're going to bring into your life, right? That's it's going to be the scarcity, or it's going to be the abundance. It's going to be the thrive. It's going to be the survival that you're bringing into your life. So I would say create I will statements. Now, these are positive statements, right? So you're going to refrain from the word never or can't, no. We're going to refrain from all of those words and create positive statements. For example, I will be bold and intentional. I will smile today and say hello, right? And when you're saying these words, I want you to take your time with it. I want you to think about what that looks like, right? You arriving to that moment, right? And you experiencing it firsthand, right? What would that look like? What's that texture? And the more you start to do this form of meditation, you will start to expand the creative mind to think about possibilities. You're going to get interested in it because it's a form of focused attention. You're narrowing your thoughts to concentrate on what it is that you desire. So I
Okay.
would say create those I will statements to really control the narrative of your day and how you want to think and how you
Okay.
want to operate. So that's one way that I would say do that. I would also say like your morning and night routine is so important, that we all have a morning and night routine, whether you know it or not. And I believe that the morning and night routine, they decide the outcome of how your day is going to be, right? So I would tell people to get in a morning routine that allows you to get at peak state performance, or to get at to optimize that circadian rhythm that you have.
Hmm.
And if you don't know what yours is, there's plenty of tests to figure out what your optimal. We already know. I'm a morning person. Some people might be night people. And so figuring out when's the best time for me to do certain activities. I say in your morning, make sure you are doing things to love you. Love yourself. The Bible talks about that. Love your neighbor as you love your what?
Self.
Yourself. And so many people, they go through their day never giving themselves attention, never showing up for themselves. They roll over to their phone, they check their Tinder, they check their Instagram, they check their emails, they make food for their kids, grab coffee, and got 15 minutes left to get to work. And so that's a constant move, and no wonder why people feel burnt out midweek, because you never fill yourself up.
Hmm.
And so make the intention to show up for yourself, to give yourself the needed love that you deserve, and to show up full. Because half the time we showing up halfway when it comes to us wanting to do something great. We might be giving all of our energy to
Right.
something,
Right.
but we're still showing up halfway because we didn't show up for ourselves. That's why it's so important to do these morning and night routines. I would say you have that first 60-minute window and that last 60-minute window at night to optimize and prepare yourself, or to get you at prime for your day.
So
So get in the morning and night.
during that time,
Yeah.
Charles, am I doing, say, like exercise or yoga, or am I doing something that's related to now my new focal point as far as this shift that I'm getting ready to make? Like, am I writing? If say I wanted to start doing motivational speaking, am I like writing a book, or
Right.
if I want to develop a website and start selling a product? Like during this time, am I doing something geared toward that? Or is this more so, like you say, that sort of self-care, taking care of self, or a combination of both?
No, this is strictly self-care.
Okay,
Like you need to just show up for you. So
gotcha.
what I'm doing, this is my routine is I I read my devotion. I and here's another thing that I added to my routine. So I would encourage people to change up their routine so it won't feel mundane. So when I wake up, I do 10 squats at the edge of my bed, 10 toe touches, 10 side to side stretches, and 10 push-ups. That immediately breaks my sleep inertia. Now, sleep
Okay,
inertia is like that groggy feeling that you feel, and that can last up to from 15 minutes, from 1 minute up to 4 hours in your day, right? So immediately I break my sleep inertia, and now I'm primed. I'm ready to receive more information, right? Because I don't want to be reading and I'm half falling asleep and stuff like that. So
right.
I'm showing up for myself that way. I'm doing my will statements at that time. I'm
Okay,
saying my personal oath to myself, and then I read for 20 minutes, and then now I'm primed. Now I can take advantage of that circadian rhythm that I have, where I can literally plug in massive amount of information at one time and perform. And that's why the nighttime I want to do things that prepare me for the next day. So I literally give myself 30 seconds to pick my outfit out. 30 seconds, that's it. I figure out my schedule for the week, for that day, and then I'm going at it. As soon as I wake up in the morning, I don't have to think. I'm just doing activity.
got it, got it.
Yeah.
So
That's the game changer.
that, yeah, because not a lot of us really give ourselves that care in the mornings, right? We kind of, one, because we've hit the snooze maybe so many times that we really just got enough
Oh,
time to get up and get to our actual obligations that we really don't have time. It's a banana or a yogurt on the way out the door. Um, but I want to touch on something because you were preparing yourself for, at that time, athletic events and running. You have this
right.
injury, and now you shift to motivational speaker, and you help people thrive, organizations and their teams thrive. And so you've made a drastic shift now. That part of
Right.
care, morning and night, is something that you hold true to, and that jump starts
Right.
the rest of your day, right? And so now, that's why I was saying certain habits at the core of us we keep, no matter what change we make or what new season we're in. And like you say, even if you change up some of the small details, but you set things in place. And so I say all of that to say that as individuals getting ready to make a pivot or make a shift to
Mm-hmm.
do a new career or find something, a new passion that they're pursuing, they need to establish certain things, right? Especially in the morning and at night, that they just make a
Right.
part of who they are because it jump starts everything else that they're getting ready to do for the rest of the day. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Here's what I say. Like, if you want to change, you can't be loyal to bad habits. And so that's why discipline has to kick in, and we have to change these old patterns that we have, right? To change our life. Like old patterns have to go, and new patterns
New
have to be
patterns. Yeah.
substituted for those bad things. You
Yeah.
can't keep the same habits to change your life.
Right.
And so, like, if I wanted happiness and I'm sad, I have to change what I'm doing to create that. I know it's really simple, but like, think about what you're doing right now. Are you happy? Are you living in like that abundance mindset? Are you, you know, not where you want to be? Do you feel like you lack purpose? If you feel these things, something has to change.
Hmm.
You got to make that decision. And that decision is going to be wrapped in discipline.
Gotcha.
You got to
Got it.
wrap yourself up in that. And just understand, like, we're not going to get this perfect. And we're not robots, but the job is to get it right majority
Yeah.
of the time, right? Like, get it right at 1 out of 5. I mean, get it right 5 out of 1 times.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. Then you're on track to changing and seeing progression. That's how you make things stick. And the last thing I would say is to create 3 measurable activities for what it is that you have that desire to accomplish. Now we're talking about that entrepreneurship. Now we're talking about that leadership. This is how you're going to show up at work. So creating 3 measurable activities that you perform every single day and never skipping a beat with that.
Okay.
To me, that's what makes me money. If I do these 3 things every single day, I can reach the income goal that I desire to reach. You got to get yourself in that routine, in that system where you're thinking less, right? I'm not saying you're limiting your creativity, but you're thinking less where you can just do more and be further along. But I think a lot of people, like, we're thinking, what am I going to do today? How am I going to do that? And so we waste our time thinking. We think a lot in the day. I forget the number, but so many thoughts are going through our mind. And we just need to put ourselves on automation mode by getting in that routine. And when you create automation, it's those repeated habits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially if I'm getting ready to start a new career. I got to have some structure. I got to have strategy. I got to have a plan. I can't go at it haphazardly. I gotta really make a plan to be able to make that type of adjustment. I know going from running with Usain Bolt to now being on stage speaking to people and helping them, pursue passions and change their habits. It was something that I'm sure wasn't just a walk in the park for you, and you've kind of shared part of that for us. And I appreciate the transparency of how it kind of unfolded, right, and how you made that shift. What was, and I think I heard you say this, but I want to clarify for the listeners. What was it that made you know that this is what I want to do? Was it that moment when that young lady came up to you in the gym and said, wow, what you just shared, I don't want to take a picture. I just need you to know that you saved my life, because I was ready to take my life. Is that the moment that you said, okay, I'm going all in on this, and this is the direction I want to go, regardless of if I have setbacks? It might not make me any income in the beginning, but I'm helping people. I'm making an impact. I'm giving back to the world. Was that it? That was it for you?
I made the pivot. I had to make that adjustment. So I was still running, trying to make it back to that level of professionalism. Didn't get quite there.
Okay.
And I said to myself in 2016, all right, if I don't make the Olympic team, then I am going to pursue my speaking career and coaching career full time. Like, literally, I just said full time. No transition after that. If it don't work, I'm done and I'm moving. All right. So that's what happened. I ended my career. I retired in 2016. Moved down to Tampa. Started my business here. Been doing it full time since 2016. 2017 actually, as that's when I did it full time. And so really been on this journey, man, and it's exciting. I don't know everything, right? But that's what makes this journey so special, right?
Yep.
Like nobody knows everything.
Right.
Like, everybody's trying to figure out life. We just know certain things that worked last time, and we ask for advice, and all right, let me make this here, and it's kind of working. But the whole thing is due,
Wow, that's really good. My wife tells me all the time, and I told her she's trying to get me embarrassed. She's always like, you and Charles need to race. You need to race Charles. And I'm like, even if Charles had broke all his toes, all his hamstring, and had a hip replacement, I'm still no match for this man.
Hip replacement.
I'm no match for this man. Oh, man. He keep himself in shape regardless. So, no, man, that's been good stuff, man. I enjoyed this conversation. One thing we like to do, man, with all of our guests, we ask them 4 questions. We call them our lead questions. 4 lead questions, and they're questions that each question start with a letter that spell the word lead, L-E-A-D. And so we like to end this segment, man. This time with you has been fun. Very informative, man, and just really heartfelt. I appreciate you being so transparent and genuine and sharing your story, because sometimes
Yeah.
we, I get to see you, and hopefully our viewers and our listeners will get a chance to check you out and hear you speak, check you out on your page, and you'll be able to share that here at the end. But, seeing you running on a stage in Berlin, seeing what you do now, is, to me, it's successful, at least to looking at it. Like, you have your own definition of successful, but I see somebody who is
Yeah.
doing something that they enjoy doing, but that in between piece, that journey, that process, you broke it
I
down
don't
for
know
us, man,
about
and you share
that.
you share passionately about it. And so I've even heard John Maxwell say
Yeah.
to a guy that he said, a guy told me, I want to be a motivational speaker like you. He was like, man, that's great, and I'm glad I inspired you, but do you want to do what I did to get here, right? And so you kind of shared that in
Right.
between piece, which is not always easy. So I appreciate you, man. But let's get to our lead questions. I'll throw them at you rapid fire, and you kind of share whatever comes to mind, the first thought that comes to mind. That's what you can just share with our
Okay.
listeners to help us out. So we're going to start with the L, learn. So during your years of leadership, what lesson have you learned that's impacted you the most?
Uh, I would say not everyone is doing what you're doing, so lead the way.
Wow. Not everyone is doing what you're doing, so you lead the way. That's good.
Right.
That's good.
Yeah, that's what I say.
All right. So,
Now, does my question have to follow up with the letter?
nope.
Okay. All
Nope.
right.
Your
Cool.
answer
Cool.
is all
Cool.
on you.
All right. Cool.
Now, I want those who are watching, so that we can keep track of these responses. Throw them in the chat so we can see what Charles said. I got to go back and listen to the tape and take my
Yeah.
own notes. No one else is doing what you do, so you need to lead the way. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Expectations.
Yeah.
What do you think is the number one thing people expect from leaders?
Mm, uh, to know all the answers, but I think sometimes a leader's job is to ask great questions.
Hmm. Even though they're expected to know everything sometimes because they're in that leadership position,
Right.
what we actually need to do is be
Yeah.
able to ask good questions. Yeah,
Right.
right on. A, for acceptance. What should a new leader learn to accept when stepping into a leadership role? A new leader, what do they need to
Mm,
accept?
they need to accept sacrifice. They need to understand that, all right, you have to. And when I say, like, when we think about the word sacrifice, it means giving up, right? So you give up your right to be selfish. You give up the right to be first and be fed, right?
Yeah, yeah,
It rides on you, but you are the one who makes the biggest. You take the biggest risk, but it gives you the biggest reward,
right,
right?
right.
But you got to be willing to sacrifice.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I agree with that 100%. I know that from my time in the military. Right off the bat, all the leaders, they would eat last. And I'm like, why these dudes eating last? They wouldn't touch a meal until we ate, those under
Yeah.
them. So, yeah, it's sacrifice, brother, because they could get to the end and all the chow gone, but.
Right. And I got people that ain't eating now.
Right.
No,
I
you got to
like it.
make
I
the
like it.
sacrifice.
All right, that's
Yeah.
good, man. D is for decision. Do you have sort of a personal blueprint that you follow when making decisions? Like, what guides your decision making, process? Some type of morals, your values. What is it that
Yeah,
guides
yeah.
your decisions, man?
Uh, I would say AP, and it's simply awareness and patience.
Mm,
Um, I have to be aware of what's going on, what changes are happening, right? My emotions, aware of what this is going to do for my career. Is this going to take me away from something else? But then the patience is not being so quick on the gun to respond
that's good,
and
man.
letting things soak, right? Being patient with my actual decision that I need to make. I think if we can practice those two things
Hmm.
daily, then we can land on a better decision for our families,
Yeah,
for our careers, and for ourselves.
yeah. Awareness and patience, man. I love that. That's really good. Charles, what do you want to say? Last final words to our viewers and our listeners. Keep it in context, man. We started this series to bring hope into homes to leaders who are trying to navigate this COVID-19, right? And this segment specifically, I wanted to bring in somebody that can just speak on a real level out of humility,
Yeah.
right? How they went from world-class athlete to now entrepreneur, successful entrepreneur, and just give us a last bit of advice, to that individual that is listening right now.
The last advice I would give is that, we're going to come out of this thing strong, but you need to do your part. And when you do your part, everything else will take care of itself, because that's the design of purpose.
Yeah.
I also am on Instagram, and you guys, I would love for you guys to follow me. If you're still on, feel free to hit me up at the Charles Clark. I'm always on there posting content to really help you and advice on how you can take your life to the next level. The other thing is I have what I call the Thrive Planner, and anyone who is looking to take their life to that mode of thrive, of achieving greatly, it needs a system. All those things that I kind of talked about, the routine and the schedule and the mindset, all those things is covered in this planner. It's a 90-day planner designed to move one big goal towards the finish line. And you guys can head to the thriveplanner.com to get your 90-day planner. I believe right now, for those listening, it's 50% off. We already had that on the website. So feel free to go there right now, thethriveplanner.com, to get your planner.
Nice. I appreciate that. Please connect with my brother, Charles Clark. Go ahead and smash the like, the hearts right now. Thank him for his time, for joining us here on the Relational Leadership Network. This has been fun, man. I know we got off to a late start with some technical difficulties, but we got a great start, late start. Charles was like, "Hey, man, we got to be agile. He brought that encouragement, and so I appreciate you, man. This has been fun. This has been fun, and I hope we can connect again, man. And I wish you well in all that you do."
Oh, man, thank you so much. It was a pleasure, and God bless you.
All right, my brother. Take care, and thank you all for tuning in next week, we're going to wrap up our Leadership 911 chat. We are going to have one more special guest come to you guys, help you navigate this time. So you don't want to miss it. Join us next week, same time, same place. Until then, stay safe, stay together, because together we will get through this stronger than we went in.